As an industry, the state of checkout is embarrassing.
I don't have to buy into a monolith that's built by one company with one ethos and one approach.
Entrepreneurship is the greatest vehicle for quality and independence and whatever your unique definition of success might be.
I think you win in e-commerce with people.
You can actually have a different checkout experience for different customer groups.
Welcome to Own Your Commerce. This is a show focused on what it takes to scale the best e-commerce brands in the world. I'm your host, Piepmeier, and the show is brought to you by Bold Commerce. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Own Your Commerce. Very excited to have Josh with me here today. He's the founder and CEO of Merriweather, which is an e-commerce SEO agency that drives revenue. I love that. It's not just an SEO agency. They drive revenue. And so not just traffic. After starting his career training under a top direct response copywriter, Josh transitioned into the SEO industry where he now applies that direct response principles to drive profitable SEO campaigns. So Josh, twice in your intro, you have driving revenue, driving profit. This is core. First of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Jay. Thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
Yeah. I love that. That's the bottom line. Like I sit on calls with merchants all the time and everything comes down to like, what money am I going to be paying for this? And how is it going to make me money? They need to translate everything, whether that's a service, an app, anything into revenue. So I guess before we get there, I want to definitely get into that, but quick background on you. You kind of fell into this world of SEO. Tell me a little bit about that. And then I want to get into like how our listeners can actually start driving revenue through SEO, but give me your quick background.
Yeah, 100%. So I actually have a mechanical engineering degree, okay? Mechanical engineering, and I have a minor in philosophy. So I got to school and I was like, you know what? This isn't the right path for me. We can get into the details if you want, but I started testing a lot of different things. Sort of that standard, I think, entrepreneur journey, testing things, failing at a bunch of different things. I did some UX design and research. I did some website design and research for clients. I did, so the UX design stuff was like a formal course that I took, like a certification, and then doing some websites for clients and some Facebook ads and some direct response copy and all this stuff. And then none of it was like working. I think I was hopping around a little bit too much to really make anything work, which in hindsight, makes sense. And then at one point in time, my now wife, then girlfriend, we were a long distance while I was trying to get things figured out. And I said, look, I'm going to come move up near you, live near you, going to get a job, right? And so I got a job. It was in content marketing and SEO, kind of the last frontier that I hadn't really explored, to be honest with you. And everything sort of came together. But I think the start of my career, like that analytical mechanical engineering background, was important because it was like variables in, variables out. I wanted to see the exact sort of numbers coming out of the work, right? And then on top of that, training, working under this direct response copywriter, I wanted to be like Gary Halbert, like these direct response copywriters that are like so big and famous. Hey, we had this campaign and it drove X revenue, right? I wrote this letter and here was the outcome. I loved sort of that component of marketing in general. And so I wanted to bring that into SEO. So tested a bunch of different things, got into it because I had to get a full-time job, and it ended up being like one of the best things that could happen. It really combines a lot of my previous experience into one practice, so turned out really well.
Well, I think that's always better when you have a multidisciplinary experience and background to bring versus being just cookie cutter, good at one thing. You bring in those skills from everything. So what does it mean to you when you say to drive profitable SEO campaigns?
Yeah, good question. And so I think this all sort of ties back to like the standard conversations I have with clients, right? Like a lot of the conversations I've had, one that comes up again and again is like, hey, we've worked with 2-3 SEO agencies. Hey, we've done some SEO stuff in-house. We've even had some success driving some traffic, but the revenue isn't going up. Or organic revenue is going up, but it just seems like so weird that that's happening at the exact same time that we tripled our ad spend, right? Like, is it really because the SEO is working, or is it just because people are searching for our brands now, right? So is this investment actually doing anything for us, or is it just sort of piggybacking on our other efforts, right? And so like coming into that, I had some early experiences where I felt like some of my campaigns were doing that. And that direct response copywriter in me was like, no, this is unacceptable. I was like, hey, I need to see what is the ROI? Like you're putting money in, how much money is coming out, right? And so we can get into all the ways you can track it, but that was the base mentality of, hey, I need to see what's exactly coming out of this, and not just in traffic and not sort of in some fluffy, high level, hopeful mindset, but actual tactical, concrete numbers,
Yeah, because, well, you can be getting more traffic, but is it qualified traffic? It's easy to drive. You can go to any store and say, I could double your traffic. It doesn't mean you're going to double the sales.
Exactly.
I guess, first of all, do you focus just on, I know your site and you talk a lot about like e-commerce SEO. Is e-commerce is your focus for SEO?
100%. So I started my career working sort of in the B2B area, like with some SaaS companies, services companies, manufacturing even. But the entire time I had clients on the side. I got one or two really good case studies on the side. Both of them were e-commerce. And I was like, okay, this is my niche now. And so that's become a whole new thing. E-commerce SEO is an entirely different animal, but that's all I focus on now. I just have some background in those other areas.
Okay, well, that's perfect because all of our listeners are e-commerce. So
Perfect.
E-commerce is such a different beast than so many other web properties because you might have thousands of products. And like, I was trying to think of a good way to approach this that would be valuable for listeners. And if I'm a merchant, I think let's like talk about a potential example store, a store that has 20 to 50 products. So in the D2C space, we're not talking like a 10,000 product store, but it's got stores with like a few main products with some complementary like accessories, kind of add-ons, like what a lot of these brands launching these days. What does that store need to make sure they think about to get right for SEO?
That's a really good question. And I like that you made that distinction between D2C and like big SKU stores, right? Because the strategies are often very different, right? If you have 10,000 SKUs, your entire SEO strategy is just going to be making sure each of those 10,000 pages is optimized, right? And like just the scope of that project is big enough that that'll take up your entire day, right? With smaller brands, we even sort of needed to make that distinction a little bit more, right? Because 20 to 50 products is enough that you have some quote unquote surface area in the SERP where, hey, maybe some of these can start to, even if you rank for some longer tail, aka more specific, detailed keywords that don't have a ton of search volume, aka not that many people are searching for the thing a month, right? Let's say only 200, 300, 400 people are searching for each of those products a month. Over 50 products, that adds up to some significant traffic to the site. And if they're going directly to those high conversion pages, you're going to see some revenue, right? But if you have 5 products, let's say you're in a really competitive space, like maybe you have multivitamins or skincare or something like that, that's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to just put your SEO strategy around your shopping environment. So let's just make a distinction here. Let's just say that if you have, I don't know, even 10 to 15 products or above, one strategy, like the number one thing that you need to focus on is making sure that your shopping environment is optimized. And that usually means, doing the standard on-page stuff, and we can talk about those tactics. But the number one thing that most people miss is creating new collections. So they'll have skincare, or let's say they're selling sunscreen, right? Well, they also, maybe 3 of their 10 products are tinted sunscreen. Well, so have you created a specific collection targeting tinted sunscreen? Do you have something for 30 SPF sunscreen? Do you have something for moisturizing sunscreen? And so looking at your catalog and saying, how do I break this down into multiple different areas? So essentially you have one page that now you've spun out into 10 pages. And with a catalog of even 15 products, now you have 50 pages that potentially could bring in traffic. That's probably the number one thing, the number one opportunity for most stores that I talk to.
Okay, so just want to get this crystal clear here. So you have 20 products. Let's just say it's skincare. Instead of just having a view products, you have a skincare for sun, skincare for women, skincare for men, skincare for whatever. And those products can be in different collections, in different or in multiple,
Correct.
But the important thing is that collection or that category is what Google indexes and is optimized. Like it sees it as a higher ranking page than an individual product. So if you have a collection on skincare for UV protection versus just a product for skincare for UV protection, that's going to rank higher. And then the products are in it, but that will ultimately be a better way to get up on Google if it's the collection versus the product within a catch-all collection.
Yes. And so that's actually a really great point that you're bringing up. There are some exceptions here, but in general, collections offer a better user and shopping experience than just a single product page, right? Like if you want, let's think about, you want running shoes. My wife just bought running shoes recently. She didn't just go to Nike and say, I'm just going to buy Nike shoes. She went to a specialized running store downtown in our area. She was like, hey, my feet do this XYZ thing, overpronate, underpronate. I don't remember. She was a runner. I'm not. Okay. So, my feet do this specific thing. I'm looking for this amount of cushion, but I'm sort of stuck between these 3 different brands. Which one is best for me? Or I'm stuck between these 3 different models. I don't know how much cushioning I need. And so then she went and she tried on 4 or 5 different models. Okay. And so if we're thinking about standard shopping experience, if we're going to generalize something, if you have 2 or 3 or 4 different products, then that's going to be a better user experience because something about them is going to be slightly different. So they're probably going to be tailored for a more specific use case. So if somebody wants to come in and say, hey, I just need something with UV protection, and then all of a sudden they see 4 options, SPF 30, SPF 15, highly moisturizing, right? They're like, oh, now I'm going to click on all of them, see which one's the best for me, and then I'm going to make a more informed decision, right? So generally, collections will rank better in general.
Gotcha.
And offer a better UX.
Now, a lot of times you click on a collection and you go to a page and it's just a list of products, but you can also put hero images, you can put content, you can put like a paragraph describing these are the recommended skincare for UV protection. UV protection is important. Having a descriptor for that category collection, I imagine, is overlooked by a lot of brands, but it's critical, right?
Yeah. And it's part of a balance, right? You see some brands like Nike, and they might rank for something like running shoes, and they're not going to have a bunch of content at the bottom of the page, below the fold. It's like they're going to have paragraphs. We have some clients in the CBD space, and you go to almost any page that's ranking, and it's like 3,000 words. And so you kind of got to look at the other pages that are ranking in your space and do a comparison. The other part of this is that it's a balancing act, right? Like if we think about sort of the parts that go into it, there's brand recognition, there's the content on the page, there's the product depth and breadth, like how many products do you have and what quality are they and how well optimized are each of those products individually. And so there's this whole balancing act. And so I find that especially in the D2C space, maybe you're a challenger brand, maybe you're sort of getting into the skincare space and you're trying to compete against Neutrogena and CeraVe and all these other brands. It's like, well, you don't have the brand presence. You don't maybe have the same amount of products. So you really do have to focus on some of that content on the page. So I think especially in D2C, especially if you're a challenger brand, that content on the page is really important.
How important is blog content for e-commerce stores?
Oh, I'm glad that you asked this. So my background on the B2B side was in content marketing, right? So I started in content marketing. I wouldn't have even, looking back, I don't think I was an SEO. We call ourselves SEOs, right? So I've always leaned heavily on that. And again, in the D2C space, this is more important, right? So let's go back to, hey, the different kinds of brands. If you have 10 products or above, the strategy we already sort of talked about. We introduced it at least. If you have 10 products or less, 5 products or less especially, blog content is going to be critical, okay? The first case study that my first sort of 7-figure case study was for a red light therapy brand. And we did not rank a single product page. We did not rank the homepage, except for their brand's terms. But the shopping environment was not at all a part of their SEO strategy. We drove 7 figures of revenue. We were on a $2 million a year run rate just from SEO, just from the content, just from the blog when I left, just through blog posts. Okay. So if you have a smaller brand, it's absolutely critical, right? Like it's probably the most important part of your SEO strategy. A smaller catalog, excuse me. If you are on the higher end of that 20 to 50, 30, 40, 50 products, it's also important because it supports your collections pages. Okay. And we can get into a specific example of that if you want to, but I'll just say sort of generally that there is a correlation between if you have a lot of posts on a specific topic, blog posts, informational posts, and the rankings for your shopping pages in that same area. Okay. So like if you have a collection about diamond rings, and then you also have a deep content library on your blog about all the different aspects of diamond rings, usually your collection is going to rank better. So in both cases, it's important. I'd say for a smaller brand, it's the most important thing. For other brands, it's sort of a second or third place importance.
Probably one of the most underutilized. Like if you go to most e-commerce sites and you click on the blog, it's from a year ago and it's some product announcement when they introduced a new product. And that's it.
Yeah.
But it's not consistent, regular content, not necessarily just announcing a product, but being an authority in the space, like other than just product promotion, right? Like just creating quality content.
I just want to say thank you to all the support everyone has given this show. The feedback and reviews have been amazing. I'm truly humbled and honored that we have a perfect 5.0 5-star rating in iTunes. If you're one of the people that have left a review, sincerely, thank you. We read every single one. If you haven't left one yet and you're enjoying the show, would you consider leaving one right now? If you do, thank you so much. Okay, on with the show.
What do you recommend to merchants that want to use AI to create content like that? Is it recommended, not recommended? Obviously, the content from AI is not as valuable, but SEO, it still has keywords, and you can tell ChatGPT to create a blog post of 1,000 words about why skincare is important for UV protection, and use these words, and you'll get a decent post. Probably not super valuable to the reader, but what do you say around that?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think augmenting your writers with AI capabilities is definitely the future of the industry. Right now, using AI is risky. Okay. We've had clients come to us and say, hey, our previous agency, just in the last year especially, hey, our last agency was using AI. We were writing a post a day. We were publishing every single day on our blog. We saw a bunch of traffic and then we sort of crashed. Okay. And so that is the risk that you're running if you're using AI to create this content. Okay. I would recommend not to use it right now at all because we just don't know, hey, is this going to cause problems? Another brand used AI. So we were sort of coming in as more of a consultant where they had a great in-house team. Their in-house team was full of like really excellent, truly excellent writers, a lot of knowledge on the industry and everything. And these writers would use AI a little bit and heavily edit it, right? Which is, I think, sort of like the popular way that a lot of the thought leaders are saying to go now. They're like, okay, AI is fine as long as you heavily edit it. And again, this sort of a similar thing happened, okay, where we saw some initial success and then over time, the traffic on the site, the revenue from the site degraded. And what's interesting is I think that was directly correlated with rise of AI on the other side of the search. So rise of AI in search engines, of people using ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini. For the listeners, these are all just AI engines for search type queries. Because what you'll notice is that Google is really interested in and is highly promoting sites that have very short, direct, succinct answers to questions now. And so ChatGPT, AI in general, by default is a little bit verbose. Like if it's going to err in one way, it's going to be a little too verbose, right? And so with this other brand, we went in and we just took the sentences that were a little too verbose in specific areas. And we said, okay, we're going to shorten this one so it directly answers the question. We're going to shorten this one so it directly answers the question. We're going to shorten the intro so that it's not verbose. And all of a sudden, those posts started to do better again. Okay. And so I think that there's just so much volatility going on. And so that client actually went back to and they're no longer using AI. And now their website is in recovery, right? So is there potential that it speeds up your process? Yes. Is there potential that is the way of the future? Yes. But right now, there's just too much volatility and fluctuation for it to be worth the risk, especially if you're bringing in significant revenue from SEO already and you don't want to risk that, right?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it is in how you work with the AI, the prompts you give. It's not like you could instruct ChatGPT to write a blog post that would probably be 10 times better than the one I would instruct it to, because you know exactly the instructions to give it, how to structure it, make sure it's highly like bullet points, lists with numbers. So however Google likes it, like you're going to be good at that. But 99% of merchants are not, and they're going to maybe cause more potential harm, right?
Exactly.
I guess on the topic of ChatGPT, this is coming up a lot lately. Like I go to ChatGPT for searches equally as much as I do to Google now, right? Like if I'm looking for a product, is that becoming a thing? Is there going to be like SEO now? There's like AIEO or is there a term for it? And I don't know yet, but AI optimization.
Yes, I think that there will be. Before we get into that really quickly,
okay. I know that's a bit of a tangent.
If this is cool, what kind of, and this is purely for research, I'm not trying to make a point here. I'm just curious. What kind of searches are you using ChatGPT for? Is there a pattern?
The last one I did, I needed to change the oil on my boat motor, and I had never done it before. And I always take it into a dealer, and at the end of the season, they change the oil and change the bottom end, the motor oil and everything, and I hadn't done it. So I asked ChatGPT, I have a Yamaha 200, what tools do I need and what oil should I use for it? Because I Googled first, and I found a whole bunch of YouTube videos and different things, and I didn't have time to go through them all. And I found it much faster. ChatGPT gave me the exact motor oil I needed because you could put the wrong oil in, you damage the engine, and the tool that I needed and where to find the spot because I couldn't find where to release the bottom end oil. So that was the last one. But I've used it for other things too. Like I started exercising and I asked it for what supplements I need to optimize my time at the gym because I'm super busy. I don't have much time to go to the gym, but when I do, I want to make sure I'm like, do I need protein? Do I need glucose? Do I need whatever? So I said, what is everything I need if I'm going to be doing exercising 3 days a week? I don't care about building big muscles. I just want to be fit. What are the supplements I should be taking to optimize my time? And it gave me a list. And then I went to Google and I ordered them. I ended up getting them from a company called Naked Nutrition, but ChatGPT gave me the list. But it feels like it's close to here's the links where you can buy them. I'm assuming ChatGPT is going to offer sponsored conversations soon.
Oh, they've got to. Like, look, right now we're at the stage, I think, with AI where we're sort of in that blitz scaling mode where they're just really trying to get as much out of it as they can and race against everybody else. And I don't think that the monetization has caught up yet. So I'm curious to see where that goes. But I think this is a really interesting example. And so we can actually dig in here because I think this is a very good example of what the future could look like. Now, I think that, and my theory and my projection here is that I think there will be some people who are less reliant on ChatGPT than you, because I have friends who are sort of almost conspiracy theorists. They don't want to follow just normal advice just based on, hey, this is sort of standard, practice. You see with the rise of people, even like Dr. Axe at one point, a lot of people are on the very extreme end of that where they sort of question everything and they don't want to get sort of whatever the standard best practice is. There's a lot of people along that spectrum. And so there's going to be people who lean a little bit sort of anti-establishment, so to speak. And so they want to get advice from a real person, right? And so they're not going to trust ChatGPT for a long time to give them suggestions. And so they're going to want to say, hey, I want advice on what supplements I should get from an actual person, period. I'm not going to get it from an amalgamation of a bunch of different people. I want it from an individual whose personality I trust. And I think there are other people who are just very personality focused. So I think there's going to be a division based on personality around how we actually use this tool, right? And so I think there's going to be one user experience, which is kind of like what you said, which is, hey, I went through and I got 99% of the way there, and then I just went to Google to purchase it. Interesting. Oh, and you just sort of, it's funny how you said that. I got it from Naked Nutrition. How'd you make that decision, right? How'd you decide Naked Nutrition? And so it's that last 10% of the buyer's journey that is going to be incredibly important, especially from an SEO perspective. And one thing we're seeing right now with AI is that, and with all these AI updates, is that Google is actually promoting merchants in search more now than they ever have. For example, if you think about like best of keywords, best creatine supplement. In the past, those kinds of keywords were dominated by affiliates with sort of listicle posts. Just in the last 3 to 4 months, Google has started to put shopping pages in those places instead. So Google is promoting stores because they think that that's what people want, and that's how people are using search more now. So I think right now, as far as SEO, hey, how are we using it? How is it going to change the future of things? I think it's actually going to be better for e-commerce stores because a lot of the search is going to be down at the bottom of that funnel where people are really waiting for purchase decision. And Google's going to really care about, hey, are we providing real businesses with a checkout experience, right? With products.
Yeah. Well, they kind of have to, right? Because Amazon claimed the spot for the number one search in the world for searching for products. If you're searching for a product, Amazon is the number one search bar. Even if you wanted to search best creatine supplement or whatever, people go to Amazon to search it because they can find the product faster than the listicles of all the different people with affiliate blog posts about over keyword stuffed on best creatine, right? So I think Google has realized that they lost some ground to Amazon and as the number one product search. And so now they need to bring product discovery much closer to the search. Like if someone is they're clearly looking for a product, Google's doing a disservice by showing all the blog posts about it. There's just more chance of abandonment before they actually complete a purchase, right? So I'm, as a brand, if I'm Naked Nutrition, I'm better to spend my time optimizing for search on Amazon because they sell on Amazon and they sell on their site, but they're better because people are searching for it there. Without getting too theoretical, I want to keep this very practical, but so products matter. You're right. I search for stuff, I see above the fold, it's the product sponsored ads. I see some organic product ads. I see a lot of product. So, I mean, other than getting the fundamentals right on a product, like a good title and some description and alt text on images, how do you get your products is it a blend? Is it a bit of advertising, a bit of SEO? What's important there for getting your products to show?
Yeah. Well, and I think I want to talk about the theoretical just for 1 second before we get into the practical, because I think it's important, right? If we think about how people use Amazon, right? What are the things that you can buy on Amazon, no problem? It's anything that you would trust sort of a generic name for. The basics. It's okay, I need, new blender. Do I really need to get, whatever brand? It's Amazon's going to have most of the right ones, right? They're going to have Ninja, even if I want Ninja. What they're not as good for is very high quality, very specific individual products in sort of niche areas. And so if your product, this is something I see happen a lot with merchants. So now we're getting back to the practical side of things. They have this incredible story, this incredible amount of thought and depth of attention behind their products that isn't sort of communicated on the page. They don't lead with it. And so they're hey, this is an energy supplement. And it has L-theanine and it has, this mushroom blend and it has all these other different supplements. And all they talk about is energy supplement with proprietary blend. And it's well, that's the Amazon strategy. The people who are going to be on Google now and in the future are the people who are looking for something very specific like mushroom L-theanine blend, mushroom L-theanine gummies. I want mushroom gummies with 100 milligram of X ingredient. And so again, we're going back to that same concept of the collection. So even with your product page, it's what's the hero sort of story behind your product? And how do you represent that in your H1, in your meta title, in all these different areas? Because if you just were to use common sense and say, hey, this is a mushroom gummy for focus, boom, all of a sudden you're more specific. And you're going to be more likely to rank for that than you are going to be to rank for energy supplement. Energy supplement is going to be very difficult. If you can get just that little bit more specific, that little bit longer tail, you're going to start to rank better and you're going to be more future-proof. So I think that's going to be playing into the behaviors that people display on Google for a long time. And so I think that's the thing that most people miss is they just try and go too general, they go too broad, and they just don't put enough thought into what does an advanced user want here potentially, right? And so you got to design that user experience, that shopping experience.
Someone said to me one time, never sell the category.
Yes.
Energy supplement is the category, but the super user, the specific product is mushroom supplement for energy at work, whatever, like
productivity,
Productivity, yes. Never sell the category. And so many product titles are the category. And then they're competing with the world, right?
Well, and this has implications too for product naming, right? I come in and I'm hey, you got to change the name of this product to XYZ. And they're whoa, this is part of the puzzle of SEO, right? Do you actually change the name of your product just for SEO purposes? That's a little weird, right? If you're a $100 million brand and you're doing 10 million from SEO, it's do I change just for this? Probably not. But then maybe you do other areas. Maybe you create a landing page with a landing page builder like a Shogun or something. And you target the new longer tail variation and you just sort of bake the product in on the page. As long as it has that sort of direct to checkout experience on the page, I consider that a shopping page.
That was actually one of the questions I had listed was, do you recommend having different landing pages for products, or does that confuse Google? Or is it like people create specific landing pages for advertising campaigns? They sometimes have landing pages for influencers. They have a dedicated landing page for Sarah, who's an influencer, and she gets a landing page, and Bob gets a landing page. And then you have a promotion and you have, but it's the same product.
Yeah.
Now what does Google think of that?
Okay. So now we're getting into a little bit more advanced SEO. If you do it wrong, you can cause something called cannibalization, where you essentially have 2 or 3 different or 4 or whatever different pages all competing, cannibalizing each other for the one sort of term or keyword or topic. And so Google will see all 4 or 5 of those and be like, I don't know which one of these is the best. I'm not going to rank any of them. And so what will often be the case there is that if you look in Search Console or something, you'll see that all 5 of these pages are ranking in sort of page 2, but they're all at about the same level, and none of them is getting way more clicks than any of the other ones. And so it's this balance, right? But the solution here is very simple. The problem sounds sort of technical and back-end SEO heavy and et cetera, but the solution is very simple. All you got to do is pull up 2 search tabs on your browser and search the 2 terms that you're thinking about targeting. And is it the same pages showing up for both? Yes or no? Yes, probably they should be combined into one page and you should not create separate pages targeting those 2 things. No, they're different. Okay, then probably you should create 2 different pages. And so there's some overlap. Google will have some overlap where they say they show maybe 5 out of the 10, the top 10 are the same. Okay, in that case, it's a judgment call. I would say if you don't know SEO, maybe keep it safe and just don't create new pages for those. I like testing with, let's create separate pages, or where in this specific industry do we create new pages or not? Because that level of specificity and that level of testing can be a huge competitive advantage.
That's a super interesting point. If it's different enough that Google sees it and the content can be different enough, then what about like with Amazon, you search for a cashmere sweater or something, and if there's 5 different colors, it's 5 different products because they want to take up more of the search and you want one seller. Now, is that still a good strategy with Google to break out products so you have a bigger catalog with more products? Or is that now Google's going to, same thing as the last question, like, are they going to say, oh, these are all the same sweater, one's red, one's black, one's gray, push it down? What's the strategy there?
That's a really good question. And we're getting advanced again here. I would say in general.
This is an advanced podcast, Josh.
Okay, perfect.
Just kidding.
Love it. So we're good. We're actually good. There's 2 ways that you can go about this, right? If you're in Shopify, for example, you can do this 2 ways. You can have dedicated URLs for each of the colors or each of the variants, okay? Or you can have just, a variant in the URL. We call that a parameter, right? Like, so it's $variant equals 1, 2, 3. Cool.
And show that on the collection page, but it's one product as far as Google is concerned.
Correct.
On the collection page, you can parse it out, but on the product page, it's one product.
Exactly. So that's one way to go about it. Sometimes you will want to intentionally split products out to target more specific terms. Again, if we go through this analysis of, let's say you're selling a cashmere sweater, right? And you look at a green cashmere sweater, an olive cashmere sweater, and tan cashmere sweater, and cashmere merino wool blend, right? And so maybe that's all the same product on the back end, but the search results for green are different than the search results for tan. Cool. So then I would say split that product up if you can.
Right. Or maybe a good example is turtleneck, V-neck, different things like
yes.
that. Like I'm searching for a turtleneck cashmere sweater or a V-neck, like that's a different product, but maybe the colors, Google sees the same.
Yes. Yeah. And this is always changing. So like Google's analysis and their understanding of like what is the same and what is different is shifting a lot, especially over the last year or 2. I think as they're trying to come in and compete with Amazon, I think the algorithm has been shifting a lot in the e-commerce space, right? So this is something that if you're going to get into that and you're getting into that level of detail where you're saying, hey, we're splitting this page out or we're keeping this page here, you really got to stay agile and keep on your toes and be willing to change things as you go, because what literally was last month ranking very well, all of a sudden is hit. And it's just because Google's decided that now it should be a subset of a different collection instead of an independent product, right? And so you have to then, okay, cool. Now we're going to wind down that specific product page, wind up a collections page instead, and shift everything over, right?
Makes sense, yeah. Well, the fundamentals are the same. The fundamentals are try to determine how Google views it. Multiple tabs, probably go incognito and see what they're seeing and then base your strategy off of that.
Exactly.
Before we run out of time here, I want to talk about running paid ads and SEO at the same time. I know there's a lot that you can do to like discover what you probably should be ranking for, what words work, what should brands be doing if they have a budget and they want to maximize it the best possible, their paid ads to help SEO. What should brands be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of think about it as paid ads first, SEO second, right? I think that's just how the e-commerce industry in general sort of works. What I see happening a lot is that brands they'll scale up their spend. They're spending $100,000, $200,000 a month on Facebook spend. And their SEO is just like, they don't even think about it. And essentially what happens is the ads, if done well, are creating demand. If you look in Google Trends, for example, and this is an example I like to use a lot because it's so interesting. If you look at in Google Trends at the term mushroom coffee or just the category, so they include a bunch of different keywords under that umbrella, interest for that has exploded over the last couple of years, right? Is it a coincidence that at the exact same time, brands like Mudwater and Everyday Dose and Rise are all advertising the crap out of their products on Meta? No, absolutely not. These brands are spending hundreds of thousands on ads. They're generating this demand. Okay, and then what's happening? There's an increased amount of interest in search. And it's not just on Mudwater, the brand, it's on the entire category of products. Is mushroom coffee even legit? Is it good for you? Is it bad for you? What are the side effects? How much should I be paying? Which one of these brands is the best, right? And so there's this entire sort of universe that they're creating in search engines that they either have to tap into or somebody else will. I've had clients that had sort of an SEO first strategy because, for one reason or another, and they are not trying to be the number one brand in the industry. They're just like, look, we're really good at SEO. We're just going to capture the demand that nobody else wants to. Okay. And so there's $10 million brands in the space. These guys have $2 million brands and they're just like filling in all the leaks at the bottom of the bucket. So these massive brands are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on Facebook, putting it all into a leaky bucket that's just falling out the bottom, right? And so if you even were to think about, okay, what is the efficacy of that advertising, right? Like, what is your cost to acquire a customer? It's like all of those customers that see your ad and don't convert, whatever the 97% is, they're going to go to Google, they're going to ask questions, some of them, and all of a sudden they might become a customer for somebody else. Your customer acquisition costs are rising and you don't know why. Well, it's probably because other people are stealing those customers, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that if you're spending over $100,000 a month on paid ads, I think that's a really good idea that like, hey, light bulb moment, maybe I should think about SEO too.
Well, and you pay less per click if the page is relevant to the search terms, right?
Yes.
Like as far as, well,
100%.
not maybe not Facebook, but Google search. If it's a relevant page, you can rank better for it for less cost. What about testing keywords? Do you do a lot of that? Like running paid campaigns, testing it on paid and then seeing what converts best and then optimizing for it? Or is there better tools to use for that?
100%. So kind of our process around that is we just get access to the client's Google Ads and we see which individual keywords are converting. I think that a lot of Google Ads marketers that I'm talking to these days are relying on the algorithm. They're sort of running the ads and letting Google do its thing with Performance Max. And so they're just doing Performance Max, right? And they're letting Google do their thing. And so it's not really popular now to say, I want to bid on this one keyword to test it. You just kind of let Google do its thing and then you see which keywords are converting and then you use those as inspiration. But we do that all the time. Yeah, that's like part of our standard process onboarding a new client.
Okay, so this is all good. You're optimizing SEO, you're driving revenue. How does a brand track this? I think I know you have a tool that does this.
Yeah. So I think like a simple process anybody who's listening can use is if you go into Google and you go to the engagement section, so Google Analytics, the engagement section, there's a landing page report. And if you add a single filter to that and you just make it say, okay, first user medium contains organic. Okay, again, engagement, landing page report, one filter, first user medium contains organic. That'll give you a really interesting breakdown, just first level, top level of which individual pages on your site are converting from organic traffic. Okay, if you just look at that with some common sense, you can then theorize on, okay, are these getting brand or non-brand traffic? If it's most of the conversions are coming from your homepage, you know that probably SEO itself isn't doing that much for you. It's just all of the people who saw your ads and then are searching for your brand or return customers, et cetera. Okay. If you have a blog post that's converting, probably your SEO team is crushing it. So just looking at that report is a really good start. I created the next level of this report, what I call traffic light tracking, where we take that information from the landing page report and we layer it with Search Console data. So we say, okay, for each of these pages, how much of the traffic to these pages is coming from brand traffic versus non-brand traffic? And that gives you a little bit more specificity around, okay, this page is generating mostly brand traffic. This page is generating mostly non-brand traffic. Okay, the conversions from that page are probably attributed to our SEO team. And so looking at this, you get a very good idea of, is SEO working for you? Which pages, what kinds of products are working for you? And you can double down in those areas.
It's a web tool or a Google Sheet, or how do you connect?
It's a spreadsheet. It's a spreadsheet, and it has a step-by-step process in there. I shot a Loom, and it breaks down exactly how to set it up and how to run it so that you can run the analysis for yourself, right? So this is all, if you trafficlighttracking.com, you go there, you enter your email, all of this will get sent to you.
Oh,
and
amazing.
You can just run the analysis yourself.
Trafficlighttracking.com.
Yep, exactly.
I'll make sure I include it in the show notes as well. And it's free?
Yep.
Oh, amazing.
There's a paid tool that you might want to hook up to pull in information over API, but that has a free trial. So, you can do it for free the first couple of times yourself. Yeah.
Amazing. Josh, I know we're running up on time here, but we could talk forever. This has been fascinating.
Definitely.
You shared a lot of insight. Probably listeners are wondering where they can find you to maybe engage your services or learn more. Where would you like to send people?
Absolutely. So Traffic Light Tracking, again, is a great place to go if you want to learn some of this yourself. If you have some questions, I'm happy to do like a free Loom audit of any of your listener sites. Hit me up on LinkedIn. We can drop that in the show notes. My last name is a little bit hairy to spell, too many vowels, right? And then Merriweather.digital as well as my site. But I would say most people like to come to LinkedIn. So where a lot of people like to chat, we go back and forth. We can have a friendly chat. I can send you a Loom video and then we can see if it's a good fit from there.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Josh.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on, Jay. This was a lot of fun.
Have you ever had a great shopping experience in the store, found all the products you wanted, enjoyed the whole experience, but then had a bad interaction with the cashier when you were checking out? Maybe the line took too long, maybe they were grumpy or rude. The checkout is the handshake between you and your customer. It's a sensitive part of the shopping journey, and it can build trust and strengthen relationships, or it can ruin them. If you're interested in learning how to create amazing handshakes between you and your customers when they're checking out, we'd love to talk. Visit boldcommerce.com today to learn more.